Okay, maybe I can start with just general questions that I have. I don't have any background in architecture, so I'll just ask based on what I've seen in today's presentation and talk, which was very interesting to me. I think there's like a move or like generally towards regenerating like abstract forms in architecture, and I was just wondering how do architects in general or anyone who practices generally like narrow down, say like the most aesthetically pleasing form based on like this series of like generations.
Mm. So yeah, so some architects maybe they have a preferred style, right? And then so for me it's like I I look at forms this way, so I don't have say like a preferred style, but it's more the goal is to create, for example, the number 4 and number 3 and 4, those are like newer languages that I wish to create, but it also depends on the client's brief and budget. So of course, complex forms usually they cost more to build, and
Yeah.
then we also have fewer contractor who can build it. So when all stars align, then we get to build something that is more organic, so-called, or complex. But then if we don't have that kind of budget, then like the first few projects that I shared, we have to think about within these two languages that's been explored so much, right? What else can I do, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so there's this the research and the teaching part. I'm kind of free to think, but then when it comes to project execution, we really have to meet the right project and the right client. Yeah. Do we have some questions?
Maybe we can answer the first question by Veronica. The Space House clients sound like it's rare for professionals to encounter. Is it hard to move residential clients away from Cartesian forms and be bold on complex forms?
Yeah, it's extremely hard because everyone is against you. Like for example, the client's budget, and then contractor also wants to build something simpler. So basically, this client they are so open to doing this because it's their 22nd house. They are bored of the Cartesian forms. Same with this contractor. So he's built so many of the good class bungalow. He's quite bored, so he is interested to build something for his portfolio and just for fun. So yeah, so you can see this is non-linear. That's why it's like I built this building first, but then now a lot of the projects that I encounter, they still want Cartesian forms. So I have many more Cartesian projects than this, but I don't really show them. Yeah.
Yep.
Can you show 37 again? 37, 37, 37. Um, this.
Yep. I think it was just the definition of the languages. Okay,
Mm.
maybe we can answer the next question from Gig. Given the complexity of the space house, how much time did you have to spend on the project? Did you have to deal with time delays and budget overrun?
The house took 3 years from design to completion, like handover. Like I said, now then 3 years later, I did the garden, which took another almost close to a year. Then now I'm still doing some upgrading, and we have to change some things. So this has been going on for a year already. So time delay, uh, not so bad, not so bad, not so much. And then, but basically because I have a very, very good contractor who can kind of plan, and we actually have plan time for mock-ups. So, so not that bad. Like 3 years for this house is actually, because a normal Cartesian house would have already taken like 2 years, 2.5, right? Budget, this house was extremely cheap, as in how to say, it's the design is quite crazy, but we managed to streamline a lot of structural and material things because the engineer is also very good. So for the complexity of the design, I would say that is quite cheap per meter square compared to a normal house. So it's about, because we are not using extremely expensive material, we are using quite simple materials, but we just build or assemble them in a very complex manner.
Yep, it sounds like a very difficult job for the contractors to measure everything also. Yeah. Okay, we have this question from Pierre. In real life architecture, there's a play between functional, practical, and the concept. For the Metaverse Museum, what were the factors that you considered that shaped the final design?
That museum, basically you want to do something with algorithm, and we want to, building in the metaverse means there's no gravity, there's no navigation problem because you can teleport, you can fly around, right? So, and then the third is you can rebuild every day, every month if you like. So these are the three kind of like from our side, right? When we analyze and um think, hey, this is the opportunity, right? That in real life we will not get this kind of thing. And then the client's functional requirement is very simple. It's just their NFT art, and the collection also is not fixed. Basically, they have a lot, and it's going to go on rotation. That's why we gave them an algorithm. Then, if they have more arts, they can have more Voronoi cells, right? Then you can accommodate more art. So, yeah, those are the factors. And yeah, they can teleport, but I think if you want to build this in real life, then you have to answer these questions. Yeah, like getting lost, very basic functional question. So a lot of the time is to show the client how you can then inhabit slanted surfaces, right? How you can start to live in a non-boxy kind of environment. Yep. Slide 87. What is 87? Oh, okay. You want to read all this?
Okay, the next question is by Hui Hui Gan. Can a house have different forms of designs, Cartesian in some parts or have parametric in others?
It can, but then it will be more difficult for them to look coherent, or like when you join. So when you were building a space house, because actually I didn't mention the client is a couple. The husband actually is a banker, so he likes things that is logical, more structured, and the wife is more artist. So she's like, no, I want curves. That's why all the initial proposal were all curves, right? So then they say, can we have two? So even then, something very triangular to make it fit together with all the free flow, that was already very difficult. So you can imagine Cartesian and then something else. The joint or the interface will be difficult. It's just like if you want to decorate a house and you want to put together furniture of different styles, it takes even more effort or taste, I want to say, to make it look good. Yeah. So there is a period of time in architecture in the 60s and the 70s. They actually do that a lot, and that's the post-mod era. So they want, it's a bit like paper collage, right? So you have different styles like just jam and come together. In Singapore, if you want to see, you have what's that guy's name? Tang Guan Bi, right? So they are seniors, they are pioneer architects in Singapore, and they design the old Gallery Hotel, the Bedok Market, right? Some of this, they are from that era where you have different previous Cartesian style, kind of gem with the primitive style. Yeah. Next. Okay. What are the characteristics of a good architectural design? I guess every architect got to end user or owner, you have to kind of define yourself, right? And what are the things that is no go, right? So for me is that like functions not enough, right? It has to, for example, like if you buy shoes, right? You have to wear, you have to be able to wear the shoes to walk. But then that functional characteristic is not enough to determine why you buy that pair of shoes, right? Or chair. So I think good design is it has to be functional, but more, is what is that inspiration, right? So, but I don't know, everyone has different criteria, and also it depends on, for example, if I'm building a factory, um, maybe it's more functional than inspirational, right? Then let's say building a religious building or a art gallery, right? That you need to be more spatial and more fun, and there's less stringent functional requirement, right? Like hospital, it has to be more functional than aesthetic. So I think there is no right one answer, but it's always different balance and different requirements. What is it?
Yep. The next question, Cynthia says, thank you for your time. There was a mention of Gaudi design, sorry. Appreciate your thoughts on his design. Is such architecture design being employed in any Singapore building?
Oh, okay. Let's see. The slides. Okay, so basically when I mentioned Gaudi design, it's basically he was using on the right here, I don't know where you can see, slide number 112 and 114. He didn't have the computer software uh to calculate very complex forms and curves. So his approach was using all this model. This is just string and weight, right? So it's basically hanging upside down of this church. He's using model uh, to calculate the structural strength of this. So it is now, I mean, we can now do it on computer, but this is the method, the modeling method. This is very, how to say, this is something that's from Gaudi, and then it was not practiced for a long period of time. And now finally our computer software can catch up with this capability. So the other architect is Fry Otto. So he used like bubble, right, to determine some of these complex uh, curve, right? So bubble gives you the the least the line of least weight, to put it simply, right? So the most efficient form is where the weight travels, right? So you don't have to thicken to take additional load. So he used bubble to found form. So again, this is something that we can actually do in computer now, uh, but why not also use model, right? So that's why in year one in NUS, we try to do that. When they are doing this exercise, they explore a lot of different materials. They use material in uh, as a muse to start the project, and then they use the computer software to then see how they can program and code some of this relation, right? Then when the relations becomes popular, like this bubble one, the coder actually writes a plugin, right, that you can then use easily. But in order to not be led by the plugin, you have to tell the computer what to do, right? So a good way is to go back to Gaudi and Fry Auto and play with these materials. And then we see how our computer can help us to calculate, right, some of these forms. I'll put it to the same again. Yes, yeah.
Uh, okay, Eloise says, thank you to Ms. Yong for your sharing. And Veronica says, thank you to your talk today. I'll never look add a potato the same way again.
Yes,
Same
that's
sentiment.
from the other guy. Yeah.
Okay, Gig has a question. How do you convey your ideas and concepts to your clients using layman language, apart from using models and perspectives?
So actually I learned a lot from teaching in NUS and teaching year one, because basically they they are also laymen when they come in, right? So if so that's the training. So when if I can explain to them in simple terms and they can actually do the exercises, I'll just explain the same way to my clients. Just that my clients don't have to do the exercises. So it took me a few years to figure out how to explain all this. Yeah. So potato is like, a good way, I think.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions? If not, I can ask one more question. I saw that the last language uses a lot of like natural forms, like you use like the metaphor of a forest to describe the language. How do you think like the move towards like sustainability and like sustainable architecture or like just landscaping in general has like affected our understanding of architecture? Because I
So
see now there's a lot of like forms that use like natural shapes and
yeah.
curves, or was that always a
So the shapes sustainability doesn't have a form. It's more a
yeah.
brief than a architectural direction or style, right? So any of this form can actually be sustainable,
Mhm.
right? So basically, architecture has to deal with a lot of issues that's outside architecture, but in order to deal with it, we need to produce form, right? So it's not how to say. It's like, let's say I can deal with sustainability through just using more efficient aircon, but that is more in the realm of engineering, right? That's how engineering deals with it. So when we do through architecture, when you say you have a net zero building, that's not really architecture. That's really just a building. So building is kind of different from architecture, right? Because it kind of solves a problem, but it just doesn't tell you how the form is enabling that, right? So there's like from what I see architecture and what I always tell my students is like architecture cannot solve problems, uh, but we can inspire human spirit, right? So it's like some of this, is it more efficient to solve the green problem or sustainability through using aircon or not using aircon? Or that's more effective, right? Than to create an architecture. So it's a balance, I guess. And I think it's the type of building. So not every building. So sometimes if we build factories, we are not doing architecture, then maybe efficiency, all this energy, efficiency, structural efficiency, everything is kind of important. It's more important in those kind of projects. But not every building needs to be like that, right? So yeah, that's the that's the
Yeah,
answer. Did
that's
I
great.
understand the question?
Yeah, I saw that. I was quite surprised to see how much like materials were being considered in the whole processes and like how extensive it was. Yeah. There's a question from Anders. The language of topology on the surface seems to be more of a change in methodology and application of the previous three languages, but it's certainly more than just writing algorithms to create diversities of more potatoes, more Cartesian buildings that react to context. What other potential do you think there is to the topological language?
I think okay, it's a kind of philosophical change in terms of understanding of this topology. Because I mean it has to go back to the rules, right? It's about uh and it's happening to the whole world right now. So we are going from something very hierarchical, centralized, to something that is very decentralized and self-governance, right? So if you from the loose and book. Do I have it here? I don't know whether I have it here. Right, so here it's actually a philosophical approach, and in this book he basically writes about this kind of nomadic structure, if you want, not centralized structure. So it applies to governance, it applies to finance, it applies to politics, and then it also applies to architecture. So, and then because of the software, you enable it. And what is this kind of space? And you can see, I don't know, like Ishigami and Ito, they are thinking about this kind of space as uh, topology, as environments, right? So they call it different names. So the search is, how do we create architecture that is like natural environment? So you don't have, that kind of vastness of desert, if you want, and then the feeling that you get in the forest or river, this kind of atmospheric environment. How can you, because architecture, it's very difficult to use architecture to create this kind of thing. It's almost like landscape and natural atmosphere, right? So the the goal is to create this kind of spaces. More they are closer. I wouldn't say they can never replace natural environment, but they are closer to natural environment, therefore more heterogeneous, more diverse, more changing, right? So all these characters are not found in the first three languages. Do I answer it? So it's still kind of unknown, because if you look at and study Ishigami and the Japanese architects' work, they are very against using algorithms to create this kind of thing. They do it manually. They build, like, like Ishigami would put and arrange every column by hand, using very big models to simulate. So I won't say, I don't know, but sometimes my question is, why not? Because he's very against his logic or his algorithm being seen, or maybe there isn't. So if you analyze these buildings, right, you may not find a mathematical equation, so called, but why not, right? So I don't know, but this is the possibility of the software. And then the Japanese, they don't use this software, but somehow at this point in time, the two, the software and the Japanese architects, they kind of they are at the same point, right? And then what is it that I want to use this idea to do? I don't know yet. I'm still searching also, and um, it's it's traced back to my interest in nomads, right? During my thesis year, it's just a different kind of um, spatial conception and orientation from what we are used to, which is cities. So cities come from power, come from top-down hierarchical planning, right? It comes from very rigid systems. So how do you then build slums, right? Can you design slums, right? Or is something that is self-designed? So all these are related topics. I don't have the answers. With every project that I get a chance, then I will try to define it in a simple way. Maybe this has to be looked at retrospectively. Okay, so at this moment I don't know.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? You can feel free to ask verbally also instead of typing, or if you're typing, just like send an emoji so that we know that you're typing.
Yeah, if I want to write, how can I do that?
Sorry,
Sorry?
here's
Hello, what do you say? Sorry, can you repeat? Hello? Is it
Uh, did someone speak just now?
Did someone ask a question?
Yeah, I heard someone, but maybe it's the audio also. If not, feel free to type in the chat also.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the super engaging talk. I learned a lot. It was really interesting to see all the different languages and how they were applied in all the structures, and of course your past projects also. Yep. So if anyone is interested, Sunny is also holding a workshop on the 16th of September on architectural modeling, and it's here at Library at Orchard. So feel free to sign up and come down. If not, thank you so much for your talk. Thank
You
you.
have a question.
Oh, yeah, we have a question.
How do you see the future of architecture? What future? How do I see the future? Architecture is always architecture. I don't know. It depends on what you are looking for in architecture. Architecture is definitely not a job, but it's very interesting to me because it touches everything that I'm interested in, and it's a deep hole. So it depends on how you want to practice and what you are looking for from architecture. It's also very diverse, I think. So if you study architecture, you can be a lot of things, but it really depends on how you see yourself doing every day, right? So I don't know. I don't know. Or if you're asking me about the industry, maybe I'm not the best person to design eco-friendly and mixed-use development. Design, you can, like I said, design, I see architecture as a kind of thought and interest. So I design and on my own, and then when the right, but I cannot control what project comes and how people want their project, how clients perceive their projects, right? So when the right opportunity comes along, when all stars align, that's when we get things built. But then architecture is a thought. Sometimes it may not, you don't need to build it, right? So it's a pursuit. It's a kind of you can you can design on paper, right? There's a lot of ways. And then eco-friendly, yes, we should save the earth, but then I wouldn't say that is the main driving force for my own design. Although I try to design like most of my buildings, they are not, they can be, they don't need aircon, but eco-friendly, if your client is on your client's agenda, then maybe I think it's a problem that can easier be solved by engineering. I don't know, right? So whether uh, uh, that needs architecture or not. Maybe they are just looking for an eco-friendly building. They're not really looking for architecture, right? So same for mixed-use development. Some of this um, development type, for example, condominium, for example, shopping mall, for example, office towers, right? Or hotels. These are profit-driven typology. So you can, and it's not wrong, right? So the client basically, they are building this to make a profit. So that is priority. So is that architecture or is that just a building, right? So you can choose. I work on a lot of these when I was younger, but I choose not to. So I stopped working on these projects because uh, it's of no interest to me because basically all the commercial data drives the project. So I'm more interested in projects that's more architecture like, right? So you can find you have to find what projects you want to work for. So all the projects are not equal, right? So a lot of people get jaded or don't see a future because basically they are stuck in a firm working on this certain kind of projects, but there are ways and means to work on other types of projects.
Okay, I hope that answered your very open-ended question. Hui Hui says thank you. Love the talk and hearing about your design philosophy.
Thank you, Hui Hui. Is that before you said do it, there must be some team or about that one. Oh, like I said, I went in the beginning, I tried to define and I went back to look at all the projects that I did in school, right? And to think about what I think are the 10 greatest building in history. Then why, right? So to kind of analyze what I like, so what I was doing, and then try to put together a direction, that I want to go. So I think this kind of exercise, I think is quite necessary. So if you're interested, you can go to this website. There are a few, I haven't put up everything. So these are some of the, like everyone's list, right? So it's them thinking about what is important to them, and therefore in their own work, they want to kind of do the same, or they want to react to this, or they want to do something completely opposite. So nobody can tell you. Everybody, as you can see, we sometimes have one or two buildings the same, but everybody's different, and therefore your direction is different. And a lot of it is shaped by your experience. Yeah. So I think there were a few points and a few projects in my school that shaped, my interests. And some of them are like minor classes. They are not the major projects. So that's very important, I think. And the first time that you start putting this together is probably your thesis, your final year in school. Yep.
Okay, great. I think that's it. I'm gonna drop a link for the workshop in case anyone's interested in signing up. But thank you again. So yeah,
Thank you. See you.
thank you everyone.